Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Rhino rooftop tent quick disconnect brackets. We've been running them for about 8 months now and we're pretty impressed with them. There's a couple things that we don't necessarily like and we're going to talk about those things at the end. We'll call them the glaring deficiencies within these brackets. But right now let's go ahead and bring them on the workbench, take them apart and deep dive each piece and kind of show you what they're all about. Alright, so when you place your order and you get them in the mail, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get 4 of these all steel construction rooftop tent quick disconnects from Rhino, and you're going to get all required attaching hardware to attach the bracket itself to the bed rack, but it doesn't come with any of the hardware to attach the tent to the bracket. So you have to already have that. And if you get your tent, then I'm sure you probably already do. So let's take a look at these things. Alright, so before I get into this, I feel a little compelled to tell you that I am not affiliated in any way with Rhino. They didn't pay me. They didn't send me these to review. We purchased these on our own accord to accomplish a few things on the Jeep that we'll talk about in a little bit here. But we purchased these with our own money. So I can give you a pretty fair and unbiased review of them, and you can trust that it's not a paid for review. But let's get into these. All right, they are laser cut, high strength steel all the way around. The only exception is the polyurethane bushing within the bracket itself, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the welds all look good. They are textured, powder coated finish, which is holding up really, really well. When I show you the pictures of the Jeep, you'll see it. It's a little dirty from all the rain and mud and everything like that from actually using these things. But the finish itself is holding up just fine. I don't have any rust on the brackets themselves, which is really reassuring. They are a 2-piece bracket. They come with a 5-year limited warranty from Rhino. They come in sets of 4. So that's important to note. With the CVT mount Denali like we have, that tent calls for 6 mounting points total. So we had to buy 2 kits. So we'll have 2 extra of these at the end of the day, which is kind of a bummer that they don't sell them individually, but as of right now, they don't. And speaking of selling them, at the time of recording this, they're about $181 from Rhino themselves. And I'll link that in the description below so you guys can just click a link and find these things really easy. All right, so these things are pretty application specific, right? So you can tell by the shape of the bracket themselves that they're only going to mount to certain roof racks or bed racks. They are designed for the SRM or the XRS 4-core bed rack or roof rack system, and those are the ones, if you remember correctly, they have the groove on all 4 sides of the supports, and that allows you to mount anything you want in those 4 grooves. So that's exactly how these work. And it comes with all necessary hardware like I showed you. So that mounts to here. You could probably use it on a different roof rack if you were willing to, I guess, get creative in mounting, but it's probably not recommended, right? And then the hitch pin is a 3/8 inch steel hitch pin. I have a few issues with this that we'll talk about it in a little bit, but let's go ahead and pull this apart and take a look at it. So it's a 3-piece system. The hitch pin comes out of the middle, like so. You got your hitch pin. You got the piece that mounts to the tent itself, and then you got the bracket that mounts to the bed rack or the roof rack. So we can kind of see how this operates here. We got these 2 ears, and it seems like quality control may be a little bit different. The first set that we got, the ears were closer together and super tight and hard to get in, so that played a factor into how hard this was to install the first time. But these seem quite a bit more loose with some more play. So yep, we got our 2 ears, we got the holes in the middle, we got the mounting holes there, and then we have the part that mounts to the standard rail on a tent. Now, I've seen the iCamper tents and a couple of the other tent companies that come up with some pretty unique and proprietary ways to mount their tents, and I'm not sure that this will work with that. So you might want to double check that before you press the order button and get something you can't use. But for CVTs, standard, the Smittybilt standard ones, the ones with the rails with the groove in it, where the bolts kind of slide back and forth. This is what those are designed for, and they'll work just perfect. So we got our rail bracket. We got a polyurethane pressed in bushing on both sides, so it's not going to go anywhere and it's going to hold up a long time. And then we have a steel insert pressed into the polyurethane bushing, and it's pretty thick. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's pretty thick. My only concern, and what I would do is I would apply a corrosion preventative to the hitch pin itself or anti-seize or something like that. I'm afraid that as we travel down the off-road trails and down the road on a daily driver, this is going to wear back and forth and bounce back and forth and rust. Now, I'm not so concerned about the visual appearance of rust, but I am concerned that this might eventually seize to the steel insert itself, causing problems when it comes time to uninstall. Now, if you're pulling this out every weekend or after every trip, I don't think you'll have that big of an issue. But ours lives on top of our Jeep, so it's a concern of ours there. But anyway, you can see it's a pretty basic system. And so I've had a lot of people ask, does it rattle? Does it squeak? Can you hear it? It doesn't. It's a pretty rattle-free, squeak-free system, which I find to be very, very impressive. Why did we purchase these? We purchased these for a couple of reasons. One was we knew that we needed to get the tent above the roof line of the Jeep itself. With that being said, this will get you about 2.5 inches of lift over the rails themselves. And then we needed an additional 1/2 inch, so we built some spacers to get us a little bit higher, but these alone will get you 2.5 inches, and for most applications, that's probably fine. But if you're familiar with the soft top on the Gladiator, it's a little bit different than the hard top. The hard top kind of lays flat all the way over. The soft top has some peaks and some angles that we had to negotiate through. Again, that's not an issue if you have one of the smaller tents like the iCamper Mini or anything like that. You're not going to be over the roof line, so you won't have that to contend with, and it will just serve a purpose as to pulling off that tent faster when you're not using it. All right, so we're in the truck bed now, and I'll kind of pan over here and show you how these things are exactly set up for us. We're only running 4 right now. We should be running 6. We're going to install the other 2 here shortly, but I wanted to show you how we got them installed, how we centered them, and then maybe some tips and some tricks on things that we learned the hard way and how to get them installed. All right, so this is them installed, right? You can see the bottom part mounted to the 4-core system with the attaching hardware that came with it, and then we have the upper part mounted to the tent, and these are the tent rails that I was talking about, these kind of standard channel-like ones where they slide through. If you have a different style, they might still work. I'm gonna have to look for your specific application and see if you can make it fit in there. But we had them evenly spaced out. We used a tape measure to kind of space them out. What we did is we installed the bottom part loose so we could slide it back and forth. And we also installed the top part loose so we could move that around as we needed as well. And once we got everything kind of centered up and square to the tent and the bed rack itself, so we were running straight head on instead of all askew, I guess is the word you want to use. Then we tightened it all down and torqued it down. You can see these spaces we had to build to give us a little bit extra height to get us over the roof of the Jeep itself, but the installation is pretty straightforward. Yeah, like I was saying, so we needed 2 people to install this. The upper part with the bushing itself will go down further into the ears than it'll go past the hole essentially, and you won't be able to drive the hitch pin in. So in these heavier tents like this, you need one person to kind of lift up the tent ever so slightly in order to help center the 2 holes together to drive that hitch pin in. Otherwise it's going to settle down closer to the metal, and they do that so that it's not metal on metal rubbing as you're going off-road, which helps keep that noise down. Like I said, it is rattle free and squeak free as we travel, and other than just making sure the hitch pins don't rust, I didn't apply any lubricant or change anything from straight out of the factory box. So I'm super happy with these and how they've held up over time, and I'll show you each one if you want, but the finish on them has held up great. No issues there. I really like these, and I do, but there are 2 glaring deficiencies that I told you about in the beginning that I'll cover now. So the first one is kind of a safety issue in mind for me. So you can see, hopefully, just what kind of a gap is left here. These hitch pins aren't real long, right? So there's not much holding this tension here with this quick disconnect, right? So my concern is that if I hit a bump good enough or this shifts in like an off-camber situation enough that I could end up popping this off-road and it shifts or it works its way loose, right? And then all of a sudden we get hitch pins working their way out, and then we have an issue where the tent isn't as secure. I might be overthinking that, and that might be a scenario that will absolutely never occur, but it's something that concerns me as we're going down the trail. What I would prefer, and Go Rhino, if you're watching this, I would love for you guys to take this on board, is a hitch pin kind of like this. And I can probably source one. I can find a 3/8 inch hitch pin. But what I like about these is the fact that there is positive engagement on the locking pin through a hole that isn't going to go anywhere. And then you clamp this shut, and now we're good to go. This isn't going to go anywhere. So I would love to see these associated with these. And like I said, Go Rhino, if you're watching, maybe consider this as an option. But I'm going to go to the hardware store eventually and try to pick up some of these and just switch over, so I don't have to worry about that. So the bigger issue, I think, is that these make your tent incredibly easy to steal. There is nothing stopping somebody from pulling 4 pins and walking off with your tent, other than the fact that we own probably the heaviest tent on the market. But that's specific to me. If you guys have an iCamper Mini and you're running these things and you're leaving them on your truck or your Jeep or your vehicle of any kind full time, it's a consideration that you maybe want to make. This now allows a pretty hasty pull off, and now your tent's gone. So those are the two concerns that I have, and maybe there's some sort of locking pin that I could find where I could attach a lock, like maybe to that. If you know of a pin that would allow me to put a lock in there and lock this, or you have some sort of idea, drop that in the comments below. I'd love to hear it and solve that problem for myself as well. I know that I have a heavy tent. I keep saying it, but in all honesty, if somebody wants it bad enough, they're gonna take it, and I'd rather keep it because it's expensive. So those are the two deficiencies I have with the quick disconnects, but by and large, as a whole, I think they're highly recommended. I really like this design. I like how quiet they are, and I like how they serve the purpose that we needed them to serve. And I would absolutely purchase these again. Stay tuned. In about 6 months, we're going to do a long-term follow-up review of the Rhino XRS bed rack. So if you're curious how this thing has held up on our adventures over the time, and you're kind of waiting to see how these things hold up over time before you make your final purchase, stay tuned for that, because that video is going to come up soon. But again, I appreciate all you guys coming out and watching this stuff, and feel free to drop comments down below and hit that subscribe button. And it allows us to get those videos out to you guys. And there are 4 billion people on YouTube, and we want to find you. So the easiest way to do that is if you hit that subscribe button, and that would mean a ton to us to help build this community. Again, thank you guys, and I hope to see you on the trail.